how do you factor the fairness while you assess an effort of someone who has an effort of 1 year, maybe in 30 minutes?
I would start with, if I am the assessor, it means that I am working with that person. And if I am trying to narrow down my assessment into 30 minutes for a year that I've worked with the business, with the person, then definitely I should be sacked, because it means that I've not been connecting with him along the year. So I might give him the feedback in 30 minutes, but definitely my assessment happens along the year. It's not that I'm assessing him in 30 minutes. It's just about articulating in 30 minutes what would be his key areas of strength and what would be the key areas of improvement or areas that he or she would need to work on more to deliver to their utmost best, and then connect on their career wishes and what they want and all that. So that's what happens in the 30 minutes. The assessment happens along the way, not inside the 30 minutes.
I want a good life, filled with highlights, and I want someone like you. I want paradise with the sunset, if I could only be with you.
How do you approach talent acquisition, and what are the skills that you're looking after for a candidates?
طيب يعني أنا again, for me, the starting point definitely that the person should have a relevant experience about, or يعني the field of study that he's done, or the job that he's done before, or whatever. If he's each career should be a bit relevant to what we're trying to do. But that's not the most important thing to me. That's just a door opener. To me, the most important thing in the person is his potential. How do I see the potential in the person? And how can I assess if that person is willing to learn or not? So his learning ability, his potential, how do I see him as a future fit for what we want to do tomorrow? And definitely, without a doubt, his soft skills, and specifically attitude and mindset, is the most important things that I would look at. So I would definitely look into his leadership profile, because I don't believe that the leadership profile or the leaders are only sitting at the top. I believe that everybody is leading his own area, and the company or the business or whatever you do, even in your life, it's a group of leaders that's actually meeting. Maybe everyone is having his own kind of area that he's contributing to, but in a sense, none of us is an employee. I would want everyone somehow to have a certain level of leadership to guide and drive the stuff that we want to do. So I would look into his leadership profile, but I want to check also his attitudes, what he's doing, how is he behaving when it comes to working under pressure, being also a team player, because I can gain work experience. I can teach people, we can educate them. When I say I am in the organization, not me personally. You can educate the person on the technicalities, but the things that you'll not be able to change is person's attitude, and you'll not be able to change also the potential of the person itself, and how his will to learn new things, unlearn old things, and relearn the stuff that he used to do in a different manner. So I look very much into his ability to build the capability that would set us for a good future, becoming more future fit. And that would be what I would look at in terms of attracting talent to start with. And if I am faced with someone who's super clever, but he doesn't have the right leadership profile or attitude, versus somebody who's 75%, 80% there, but he possessed the right leadership profile and attitude, me personally, I'll choose the 70, 80%. I will not choose the most fit from a job perspective, and he doesn't have the leadership profile or the attitude that we want for the future. Because as I've told you, I can build that, but I don't believe that we can build the other.
What are those jobs that requires like IQ more than EQ, you think, in supply chain?
None. Without EQ, I don't think anyone can survive in the business. And it's not only about supply chain. You are dealing with humans, be it within the company, be it outside the company. You are definitely, at the end of the day, you do a product and you actually try to sell it in the market. Those are people. they are all human. If you don't have the EQ, you will never be able to actually crack that part, even within the business or outside the business. And there are always the stuff that you need to focus in within building or for building the internal culture and the environment of the operations and the business that you're having. But you should not also turn your eyes from the fact that also the opportunities and the competitions out there. And you need to understand the psychology of those people whom you're trying to sell to, what would trigger certain habits and attitudes for them to utilize your products at a certain point in time. So for me, I cannot think of anything that would help you within the business having a higher IQ and no EQ. Definitely higher IQ with an EQ, maybe some jobs would need, but nothing that would require zero EQ. That's in my view.
After getting acquisitions for the talents, how do you make sure that those teams or those candidates are aligned within the organization with the team in terms of maximizing their potential and not be deviating from the core objective?
So again, attracting talent is definitely a tough choice, but it's not the toughest part. Retaining and growing those talents is actually the most toughest job of any leader that you would want to have. And to me, it doesn't mean that the start is a mean to an end, because I've seen along the way lots of people who have transformed, moved into a total different trajectory, much different to what we've expected at the beginning, positively or negatively. You might think that that person is no, he's not gonna make it, and he would actually prove you wrong, and he would be one of the best. And the other way around is true. You believe in someone that he would do miracles, and then he wouldn't deliver on what you want. And the key thing is about you guide and coach both same way. You try to create the environment and the platform for them to grow. You try to get them to involve. And me personally, I believe that also it's very important to stretch the person beyond his own boundaries of the job that he's doing. Because today he's doing that job, tomorrow he'll have to do another job. So it's very important that he would understand the overall supply chain picture and also to build his business acumen, his or her business acumen. Because at the end of the day, it's, how do I say, it's inevitable that you would have somebody who would be a subject matter expert in one area and sustain that for all his career. I would want to work with people who have diversified backgrounds, who have diversified capabilities, and have also diversified ways of working, depending on the situation, which is more around the situation leadership instead of a certain style of leadership that you're having. And for example, to give you an example about why I'm saying that, it's very common that when you're trying to get somebody to focus on his job, if he doesn't understand the inputs and the outputs, at best he would do, or what happens before him and after him or her, at best they will be able to deliver in the job to the max or full 100%. If they get to understand why they are doing it and how they are getting the inputs and why they are doing it and what does it mean for the people after them in the chain, it becomes much easier for them to excel and to be able to get to the beyond 100%, because he's not doing it mechanically. He's applying also the sense. So systems, I believe very much in systems and processes, but also I believe in people brains. Systems and processes are very important to follow. But again, you should not do anything blindly without trying to understand what's behind it. And I find, or at least I believe in that. I believe in the fact that the days where you used to have specific supply chain functions, for example, like manufacturing, planning, logistics, is kind of dissolving a bit. Now, all of us will be labeled as supply chain managers. You might have an area of expertise, but you will be a supply chain manager with an area of expertise in manufacturing. If you don't understand the end-to-end supply chain, you can never do manufacturing properly. Or you can do just a job of a factory manager who wouldn't understand how to serve the market better, who wouldn't understand that when you are asking him to do more frequent changeovers, it's not because you want to give him pain. It's more of the fact that market dynamics require you to be that agile and responsive, and you shift your lines very quickly. And then he would come back to you and say, okay, but the lines that I'm using are rigid and they are not able to actually cater for that. Then you start co-creating with him. What would it take to create the flexibility in the lines? And you start from there, putting the customer and the consumer first, and then you try to actually get to what you can do in the manufacturing sites. Otherwise, he will run his lines like a train, delivering you products that you might not need.
Long runs.
And then there'll be complete disconnect. So I would want people to understand, definitely within supply chain end-to-end, what's the role, yes, but also what does it mean for the total optimization of supply chain. And I would love to have people to understand what does it mean for the business, and most importantly, also for the business. Because every one of us impacts how the business delivers one way or another, no matter how your role is small in the organization. If I give you a very small role in any organization, be it a creation of a code or whatever, if you don't get it right, the whole operation, you will not be able to produce, sell, distribute, do whatever. So everybody is playing a very critical role for the whole chain to operate. And that's where I want people to have the element of the bigger picture. So that's how you help them grow, by giving them the bigger perspective, giving them the exposure, trying to get them to be part of projects that would help them understand and learn that. Then the retention is also an issue, because you don't want to keep growing people that will not stay with you for long. You would want to grow them anyway, but you would want them to stay as well with you. And to be able to do that, you try to marry what the person would want and what would also be good for the business, and try to be very transparent in the way that you speak to the team on, look, what's your own personal wishes for your career? And then you give them a kind of, how do we see it as a company, as a business? And then we reach a middle ground on the way forward. That will not take away the fact that they can still leave, but at least you should provide clarity on their career progress and what do you have in mind for them as much as you can. And then you work with them in building what it needs in terms of building the right capabilities, the trainings, the learning, and everything that they need, so that they will be in a better place to get there. Because now the competition is fierce, and may the best win. You would never be able to cast someone for a role and keep it all the way like that. There were lots of times that we had names in mind as preferred candidates for certain jobs, but we've been actually faced with a situation that we find out someone was much better. And that's where we've given the job to that person. So that's how we try to keep them going.
You spoke about diversity. So you have a huge team, different nationality, different beliefs, different genders. How do you make sure that such team is still motivated, having the same objective, without just deviating from the core objective that you put?
So again, the diversity, as you've mentioned, lots of people talk about diversity of gender, diversity of nationality. But at the end of the day, the most important diversity that I see is diversity of thought. How to bring people to actually accept the other. When someone is giving his own view, how to be inclusive enough to make sure that they are heard. And that there is no one in the group that's actually shutting them off and not listening to what they are saying. So the inclusion and the diversity goes hand in hand. And by actually trying to get the team to think in a diverse way, accept the other, and the fact that you're having different nationalities, as you've mentioned, different ethnic beliefs, different religion, is very enriching, because you have lots of experience that come down your way. You have the choice whether to use that to your benefit or to use that against what you want. So you will unleash a huge potential of power to the organization if you try to get people to speak up their mind, feel psychologically safe, to give their thoughts, believe, and you listen to them and you carry them with you towards where you want to achieve. So I try as much as I can, even when I'm looking into a CV, even when I'm trying to do an interview, not to even get to know what's the person religion, what's the person nationality, may the best win. I try to deal, definitely I would know is a male or a female, but at the end of the day, I would try to, as much as I can, do a fair assessment in isolation. And I can tell you there are people that we've recruited feeling that they might not be the best cultural fit, and we've been proven wrong. And there are people that we've recruited that we felt that they will fit the culture very well, and we were totally wrong. So it's still, you can never bulletproof it. It cannot be. You are doing your best in judgment in terms of getting the team in, and then as you see them operating, you try to get the best out of them. And it doesn't matter where they sit. It doesn't matter where they are, because at the end of the day, it is, and I think COVID was a great example of that. We had to operate without being physically there. But me personally, I believe in the physical connect power as well. So if you are forced not to be with that team for one reason or another, that's fine. But if you should create bridges as well. So even if they sit in a different location, you need to reach out and go for them. You get them and you meet them, because the personal connect is still very important. And I am not one of the people that believes that 100% virtual is the right thing to go. That's not my personal belief. I'm very well situated to operate virtually and with virtual teams, but I would always want to create those bridges and work with them and create moments where we come together, we connect together outside the screens of computers, laptops. And
You mentioned that there were some times where you thought that these people or those candidates will fit in the culture of the organization, but maybe they failed. How do you deal with such situations with those people? What are your approaches?
So again, you guide, you coach, you confront, you speak openly about what you're having, and you try to help them mingle and actually integrate more into the culture. If they are willing to do the effort and they are listening and they are taking the feedback seriously and working on, then they manage. And actually, they become kind of a culture fit in a sense. If they are not, and that creates lots of negative energy, then you actually redeploy, either in a different area, or sometimes even if it's required, you might, that would be the end of the road for both of us. Because at the end of the day, protecting the values of the company, the culture of the company is very important. And especially when it comes to values, if that cultural disconnect relates to values and beliefs, that's intolerable. So that's, you just give a warning, you speak once. If it doesn't actually get fixed, then people are out. But sometimes not all the cultural issues is around the values. Sometimes it's just about normal behaviors that people might be not very much acquainted with the current culture, and they would behave differently. And then by giving them the feedback and trying to guide them and find the way through, they correct course. If they correct course, then they get best of both worlds. They get the candidate that you want, and he's a culture fit. And that's how it goes.
I have an interesting question. I think that I park it till the end, but an effort of 1 year for an employee, and a discussion of maybe 30 minutes for most of the employees. For the managers, they discuss it in 30 minutes. How do you factor the fairness while you assess an effort of someone who has an effort of 1 year, maybe in 30 minutes?
I would start with, if I am the assessor, it means that I am working with that person. And if I am trying to narrow down my assessment into 30 minutes for a year that I've worked with the business, with the person, then definitely I should be sacked, because it means that I've not been connecting with him along the year. So I might give him the feedback in 30 minutes, but definitely my assessment happens along the year. It's not that I'm assessing him in 30 minutes. It's just about articulating in 30 minutes what would be his key areas of strength and what would be the key areas of improvement, or areas that he or she would need to work on more to deliver to their utmost best, and then connect on their career wishes and what they want and all that. That's in what happens in the 30 minutes. The assessment happens along the way, not inside the 30 minutes. And it's very important that you would be always close to your team, that you would know at any given point in time what they are doing, and you have that kind of power to assess them. And again, I wouldn't wait for a year to give somebody feedback. I give the feedback on the spot, whether they like it or not. I feel it's also important for the people to actually get the feedback as soon as you can give it to them, because you allow them more time to work on. My aim is not to get him to fail. My aim is get the person to succeed, to set him for success, not to set him for failure. So the earlier that I give the feedback, the better. And again, for me, you've mentioned in your question the answer as well. It's about assessing the effort. It's not about assessing only the KPIs. I'm not saying that the KPIs is not important, but definitely you have the OKRs that you're setting for yourself. You have the KPIs that we agree on. And again, some people might tend to agree to take very stretched targets on their shoulders. If they would achieve 90% of that super stretched target, is better for me than somebody who've achieved 120% of a very loose target in essence. So 2 things. I personally never negotiate targets that I'm getting. I take targets, I do my best, whatever it lands because I give it my all. But I'm not just working behind targets. I'm working behind delivering for the business. And I would want my team to do the same. I would honor the fact that somebody would drop on his personal target to achieve a bigger picture of what the business would want. And that will go as a factor in my assessment for her. I would want to understand if that person have sacrificed his own target for the greater good. I wouldn't penalize him for that. Then I would be setting in my mind, or in my view, the wrong example for people not to do that. And then you are creating silos, and you're creating people that would be very much behind their targets, not looking into the bigger picture of the business or what the business can achieve. So that's the picture that I'm trying to portray for you, is what I'm getting through the years, the full year. And then in the 30 minutes, I try to articulate what exactly did you do well, what didn't go so well for you, how can we work together, how can I support you? And I also always ask them to give me feedback, because part of their failure I'm responsible for. I might not have been giving them the proper support that they would need. So when they give you the feedback, you acknowledge also that you might have been able to help them differently, and then you take it to the next. The aim of assessment always is not to get the person and you actually bash him against the wall and tell him you've been doing what. No, it's actually about the person's development and how can you contribute to that and how can you grow that. There was not at any given point in time in my career a time that we've had no job for a good performer. Even if your job disappears, if you're a good performer, we always find a way to redirect you and actually utilize you somewhere else, because a good person will perform well almost everywhere. So you never want to, or you don't want to make sure to make people look that they are not, or they are in a position that they feel traumatized that they are not achieving. You want to definitely give them the right message if they are not delivering, but help them also to deliver. And that's what happens. But again, it doesn't happen in 30 minutes. I wish it was.
Last question, more interesting one. But what if I have like a huge effort? I have great attitude, great mindset. I have great KPIs, and I'm reporting, let's say, for a manager that he cannot confront on the same table with maybe more influential managers, and I didn't take my, I would say, the right or the fair assessment. How do you factor that this guy who's under this manager is taking the right assessment?
Okay. Again, Yani, very simplistically, I've told you that the way that I deal on things, I don't like the hierarchical way of doing things. So I have an open door policy, and there is something that we always call it in the management skip level. If you are having a problem with your manager and he's not being able to assess you fairly, and you think that that's the case, you are always having the chance to do a skip level. And again, if you find that my view is similar to the views of your manager, then you might need to check your own perception about what you've been doing. But if you find that maybe, no, we are not aligned, maybe I might not be aligned to that level. So what happens normally around that you get an exposure to a greater number of people. And that's how we assess people as well. We don't assess a person by one person or by the leader or by the manager. I don't assess my team only through me. I have my view of them. but also it's a collective view of all the peers that I'm having in the same team that's also assessing that. So when I would go, let's assume that I would have any biases towards a certain person, positively or negative. I like you, so I'm assessing you very well, although you are not doing a good job. Or I don't like you, so I'm giving you a crappy evaluation because I don't like you. The system takes care of that. It's not about my personal evaluation only. There is a group of people that's evaluating that person. And if somebody is not in agreement, they would come and say, no. You know what, Kadous, no, we are not in agreement. That person is doing great. So rest assured that even your direct manager, who might not be, even if you don't need to do a skip level, whatever the manager is telling you is also a feedback of a group. But it will be always good to do a skip level so that you get also a proper guidance. What would it take to move forward, and how can you improve on that? And you need to do that with an open mindset that you are doing that not to push back on your manager as much as you learning how to move out of that situation and you perform at your best and you go into a different level in terms of growth. So the way I see it in corporate life, you would never have someone, and for us it's a code, if you find somebody who's actually undermining what you've been doing without any facts, and he's doing it because he want to crash your passion or crash your capability and ability to move forward, then you should always talk to somebody from HR or your skip level and try to take it forward.
Kadous, it was a pleasure having you here today in Unleash. You unleashed a lot, definitely a lot of values. I wish you all the best and keep inspiring, and definitely we'll have another session.
The pleasure is all mine, Ahmed. I'm really happy. I know that we spend a good amount of time together, but I hope I was not super heavy on that.
Thank you so much, Kadous.
Unleash is the bridge between my purpose and my mission. And my mission is unleashing the human greatness to its utmost potential.